An engineer dies and reports to the pearly gates. St. Peter checks his dossier and says, "Ah, you're an engineer, you're in the wrong place." So the engineer reports to the gates of and is let in. Pretty soon, the engineer gets dissatisfied with the level of comfort in and starts designing and building improvements. After a while, they've got air conditioning, flush toilets, and escalators, and the engineer is becoming a pretty popular guy. One day, St. Peter calls Satan up on the telephone and asks with a sneer, "So how's it going down there in hell?" Satan replies, "Hey, things are going great. We've got air conditioning, flush toilets, and escalators, and there's no telling what this engineer is going to come up with next." St. Peter replies, "What? You've got an engineer? That's a mistake. He should never have gotten down there. Send him up here." Satan says, "No way. I like having an engineer on the staff, and I'm keeping him." St. Peter says, "Send him back up here or I'll sue." Satan laughs uproariously and answers, "Yeah, right. And just where are you going to get a lawyer?" Teacher: What does your father do for a living? Student: He is a magician. Teacher: What is his favorite trick? Student: He cuts people in two. Teacher: How many brothers and sisters do you have? Student: One half-brother and one half-sister. An elderly couple was in bed one night and the woman woke up from a bad dream. She was scared and panicking. Her husband awoke and turned the light on to calm her. He asked what was wrong. She said, "I had a dream that I died and you got remarried." She asked him, "If I died tomorrow, would you get remarried?" He said, "Sure, I don't, Ma. I'd want to spend the rest of my life lonely." Then she asked, "Well, would you two live in this house?" He replied, "Sure, we just got finished paying off our mortgage." She asked again, angry now, "Well, would she sleep in this bed?" He snickered and said, "Yes, of course, this bed is brand new and expensive. There's no reason to rid of it." She asked irately, "Well, would she use my golf clubs?" He replied with a straight, serious face, "No, she's left-handed." A wife asks her husband, "Could you please go shopping for me and buy 1 carton of milk, and if they have eggs, get 6. A short time later, the husband comes back with 6 cartons of milk. The wife asks him, "Why did you buy 6 cartons of milk?" He replies, "They had eggs." A man hasn't been feeling well, so he goes to his doctor for a complete checkup. Afterward, the doctor comes out with the results. "I'm afraid I have some very bad news," the doctor says. "You're dying, and you don't have much time left." "Oh, that's terrible," says the man. "Give it to me straight, Doc. How long have I got?" 10, the doctor says sadly. 10, the man asks. 10 what? Months, weeks, what? 9. 3 sisters, ages 92, 94, and 96, live together. One night, the 96-year-0 LD draws a bath. She puts one foot in and pauses. "Was I getting in the tub or out?" she yells. The 94-year-old hollers back, "I don't know, I'll come up to see." She starts up the stairs and stops. She shouts, "Was I going up or going down?" The 92-year-old is sitting at the kitchen table having tea, listening to her sisters. She shakes her head and says, "I sure hope I never get that forgetful," and knocks on wood for good measure. Then she yells, "I'll come up and help both of you as soon as I see who's at the door." So there's this man with a parrot. And his parrot swears like a sailor. I mean, he's a pistol. He can swear for 5 minutes straight without repeating himself. The trouble is that the guy who owns the parrot is a quiet, conservative type, and this bird's foul mouth is driving him crazy. One day, it gets to be too much, so the guy grabs the bird by the throat, shakes him really hard, and yells, "Quit it!" But this just makes the bird mad, and he swears more than ever. Then the guy gets mad and says, "That's it, I'll get you," and locks the bird in a kitchen cabinet. This really aggravates the bird, and he claws and scratches, and when the guy finally lets him out, The bird cuts loose with a stream of invective that would make a veteran sailor blush. At that point, the guy is so mad that he throws the bird into the freezer. For the first few seconds, there is a terrible din. The bird kicks and claws and thrashes. Then it suddenly goes very quiet. At first, the guy just waits, but then he starts to think that the bird may be hurt. After a couple of minutes of silence, he's so worried that he opens up the freezer door. The bird calmly climbs onto the man's outstretched arm and says, "Awfully sorry about the trouble I gave you. I'll do my best to improve my vocabulary from now on." The man is astounded. He can't understand the transformation that has come over the parrot. Then the parrot says, "By the way, what did the chicken do?" A husband wrote the following letter for his wife and left it on the dining room table. "To my dear wife, you will surely understand that I have certain needs that you, being 54 years old, can no longer satisfy. I am very happy with you, and I value you as a good wife. Therefore, after reading this letter, I hope you will not wrongly interpret the fact that I will be spending the evening with my 18-year-old secretary at the Comfort Inn Hotel. Please don't be upset. I shall be back home before midnight." When the man came home late that night, he found the following letter on the dining room table. "To my dear husband, I received your letter and thank you for your honesty about my being 54 years old. I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that you are also 54 years old. As you know, I am a math teacher at our local college. I would like to inform you that while you're at the Comfort Inn, I will be at the Hotel Fiesta with Michael, one of my students, who is also the assistant tennis coach. He is young, virile, and like your secretary, he is 18 years old. As a successful businessman with an excellent knowledge of math, you will understand that we are in the same situation, although with one small difference. 18 goes into 54 a lot more times than 54 goes into 18. Therefore, I will not be home until sometime tomorrow." The drill sergeant, making his morning announcements to a group of newcomers in a training camp, stated, "Today, gentlemen, I have some good news and some bad news. First, the good news: Private Peters will be setting the pace on our morning run." "Oh," he said. With this, the platoon was overjoyed, as Private Peters was overweight and terribly slow. But then the drill sergeant finished his statement. "Now for the bad news." He then said, "Private Peters will be driving a truck." A gentleman and a lady were dining at a posh restaurant when the waitress, busy attending another table, noticed something unusual. The man's chair seemed to be sinking lower and lower until he completely disappeared beneath the table. Meanwhile, the woman across from him remained completely unfazed, showing no sign of concern or surprise. The waitress, intrigued, watched the whole scene unfold. As the man vanished from sight, she looked at the woman with a puzzled expression. With a calm and nonchalant look, the woman met the waitress's gaze and said, "Oh, he didn't disappear. He just came in through the door." John was a clerk at a small pharmacy, but he was not much of a salesman. He could never find the item the customer wanted. Peter, the owner, had about enough and warned John that the next sale he missed would be his last. Just then, a man came in coughing and asked John for the best cough syrup. Try as he might, John couldn't find the cough syrup. Remembering Peter's warning, John sold the man a box of laxatives and told him to take them all at once. The customer did as John suggested, and then walked outside and leaned against a post. Peter had seen all this occur and came over to ask John what had happened. He wanted something for his cough, but I couldn't find the cough syrup. So I substituted it for laxatives and told him to take them all at once. Peter was shocked. "Laxatives won't cure a cough," he shouted angrily. "Sure they will," said John, pointing at the man leaning on the post. "Look at him. He's afraid to cough." There was a young man who was fed up with all the bias in news networks everywhere and vowed to make his own set of news channels that would be void of any and all bias. As he was not a wealthy man, he had to find ways cut costs in making his network. He managed to make an odd deal with all his suppliers, which said that he had to pick up and transport all the materials needed, and if his business didn't work, he would have to bring all the materials back to the exact same places. Confident that his business would be a success, the man took the deal and began building his network. About a year later, once his work was complete, he named his network Zero to represent the amount of bias that would exist in his news. He soon found out that people didn't have time for news which didn't conform to their views, and so his business went under. As per his deals, he took the materials back to where they came from, making sure that not even a brick was out of place. The network done was zero. An elderly couple were on a cruise, and it was really stormy. They were standing on the back of the boat watching the storm when a wave came up and washed the old man overboard. They searched for days and couldn't find him, so the captain sent the old woman back to shore with the promise that he would notify her as soon as they found something. 3 weeks went by, and finally, the old woman got a fax from the boat. It read, "Ma'am, sorry to inform you. We found your husband dead at the bottom of the ocean. We hauled him up to the deck, and attached to his rear end was an oyster, and in it was a pearl worth $50,000. Please advise." The old woman faxed back, "Send me the pearl and rebait the trap." Two guys go to a party and get very drunk. They are sat at a table beside the dance floor, and one of them sets eyes on a lady on the opposite side, sat alone. "Man, she's really beautiful. I'd like to have a dance with her," says the first guy. "Which one?" says the second. Standing and pointing, the first says, "Her." The second guy says, "Then go and ask her." The first guy says, "But I'm too drunk, she'll say no." The second guy says, "Okay, I'll go ask for you." Having seen the first guy stood pointing and the second guy stumbling across the dance floor, the lady was already prepared. The second guy approached and said to her, "My friend wants to dance with you." The lady replied, "I'm concentrating on matrimony and would rather sit than dance." The second guy stumbles back across the dance floor and sits back down. The first guy says, "What did she say?" The second guy replied, "She said she is constipated from macaroni and would rather shit in her pants." Bob and a few of his co-workers go out to lunch to celebrate Bob's birthday. Bob, Tim, and Susan are sitting together in the booth when the waitress approaches. She hands them their menus and says, "Good afternoon, fellas. Welcome to Ruby Taste Kitchen. Before we get started, might I ask if you're here to celebrate a special occasion?" Susan pipes up, "It's Bob's birthday." "Oh, well, happy birthday. Make sure you save room because you'll get a free dessert." Tim and Susan smile and nod, but Bob looks a bit confused. He asks her to repeat herself. "Sure thing, happy birthday. Save room and you'll get a free dessert." There's a moment of silence before Bob says, "Vroom, vroom." A man suspects his wife is cheating, so one day he comes home early. As soon as he steps inside, she meets him at the door, wrapped in a bathrobe, her hair a mess. "Where is he?" he shouts. "Where's the guy you've been sneaking around with?" She gasps, "I don't know what you're talking about." Not convinced, he tears through the house, checking under the bed, inside the closets, even behind the shower curtain. Nothing. Then from the kitchen window, he spots a guy just sitting in a Volkswagen parked outside. His eyes narrow. That must be him. Blinded by rage, he grabs the refrigerator, lifts it with all his strength, and hurls it out the window. The effort is too much, his heart gives out, and he collapses dead. Up at the pearly gates, St. Peter looks at him and asks, "What are you doing here?" The man sighs, "Well, I knew my wife was cheating, so I came home early, saw the guy in the Volkswagen, threw a fridge at him, and had a heart attack." St. Peter shakes his head. "Yeah, that was a bit much. Off to you go." He pulls a lever, a trap door opens, and the guy vanishes. Minutes later, another man arrives at the gates. St. Peter asks, "And what are you doing here?" The guy looks confused. "I don't know. I was just sitting in my Volkswagen, minding my own business, when suddenly, bam, a refrigerator crushes me." St. Peter frowns. "Oh, you poor guy. But still, you were involved in all that mess. Off to you. pulls the lever. A few minutes pass, and a third guy stumbles up to the gates, dazed. St. Peter sighs. All right, what's your story? The guy blinks and says, honestly, I have no idea. 1 minute I'm chilling in a refrigerator. The next, I'm here.